The black hole when the matter is become infinite dense. Today we're going to talk about probably like 10 different singularities, because lots of different singularities will change our life in the next 100 years probably. The first is an ontological singularity, more philosophical singularity. Cosmological and gravitational. Cosmological, that's where our universe came from. Gravitational, this is the black holes. I would say biological or post-human DNA singularity. Economy singularity, my favorite one. When the robots will take over, you wouldn't have to work, so you're going to have a free time. And that's the human nature. When you have a free time, what are you going to do? AI, artificial intelligence, and artificial consciousness singularity. So when the robots will take over, it's going to be different economy, it's going to be different humanity. Epistemological singularity, that's where we'll reach our limits of knowledge. So by our biological nature, by our brain limitations, so we wouldn't be able to go further than certain our research. Mind uploading, so that when the mind uploading will be available, probably in the next 20, 30 years, maybe 100 years, as in full capacity, people will reach at least cyber immortality. Social ethical singularity, so when the robots will be here and artificial intelligence will help us with economy in every possible way, it's going to be quite different societies, it's going to be different ethical values. That's one of my favorites, so eventually we should merge or make the other civilization in the universe. That's the Cosmism, one of the most important dimensions of the Cosmism, talking about merge with other civilization. We now belong in the universe. An artificial singularity, the modern Cosmism proposing that eventually humanity will influence or trigger artificial singularity, which may give birth to the different universes. We start the most complicated thing, it's called ontological singularity. You see it? Come back. This is a circle of life, a circle of being. Buddhist part that's Buddha lived for 100 years. Every year of Buddha is 100 years of Buddha is 311 trillion years. Or Google years, which is 10 in power of 100. They proposed, the Buddhists proposed that initially the universe was born out of nothingness. Then it was probably some kind of a existential fluctuation, merged many cosmoses, then the multiverses. That's where we believe in the era of universes. And then it's coming back to nothingness, and that's where we re-merge again. So that's a two big circle of being. And where is the nothingness coming, something coming out of nothingness we call ontological singularity, because nothing is not perfect. So when nothing is not perfect, it's something coming out of it. It's complicated, but it's a beautiful idea when we can understand how it works. The Cosmism proposing this is the different ways how the realities emerge from the singularity, the Big Bang, then the inflation process, then the stars will emerge, and the superintelligent life will emerge. Created sound singularity will give the birth to many different universes. So we live in not just one universe, we live in a multiverse. And the cosmos contains many multiverses as well. Gravitational singularity. That's how the black holes work. So if the mass of the star is more than 3 or 4 masses of the sun, the star will collapse and they create the gravitational singularity. It's not the matter, it's emptiness, but it's very dense emptiness with infinite dense. Most interesting things, when there's something going down to the black hole, it will dissolve and disappear, disintegrated, totally disintegrated. However, the information about the things falling to the black hole is not disintegrated. It's located in the surface of the black hole, and the information is always preserved. Biological singularity. Cosmism believes that life is everywhere. It's rare, but how the life is emerged from the atoms, from non-life. It's called abiogenesis. When the molecules is formed the DNA, and the DNA formed the intelligent life. Post-human DNA is singularity. So I believe that in the one day humanity will be able to create a very unique DNA. We can improve our own DNA, and that's will require the nanorobots to accomplish this very difficult task. Economy singularity, and everything will be done by the robots. So what we're going to do, and everybody will do our own job. So probably we're going to see our own naturally humanity. Artificial intelligence singularity. When robots is everywhere, our life is changing dramatically. So it's going to be a different society. We have to deal with artificial intelligence because it's going to be around us, and our minds are going to be different. Our minds will be close to their minds, but they're not going to take it over. I believe that artificial intelligence is a friendly intelligence. They like our children. We're going to create them as children. They will have their own interests, and at one point they will depart and do their own things. But while we're together, we're going to be the friends, but we're not ready for these friends to emerge. Cosmism is proposing the idea how we can work together. The structure of reality, including the consciousness, because when we're talking about the consciousness, this is question if the consciousness can be built artificially. Is consciousness have a digital nature or not? Cosmism believes that consciousness can be created artificially for many different reasons. Because the consciousness is a part of the reality. For example, in quantum mechanics, we require the consciousness to be an observer. Our brain and our universe is consciousness friendly. It's like an apartment building. So when apartment building, it doesn't have a consciousness. But the people who live inside have a consciousness. So the apartment building is consciousness friendly, like our universe is consciousness friendly. Our brain is consciousness friendly. And I believe that's not the best framework for a consciousness. That's interesting. There is a Penrose-Hawking singularity theorem that says that there is a possibility, theoretical possibility, that we can create the universe in the lab. The theorem is prohibited to create one universe inside another universe, but there isn't in discovery there is a healthy way to avoid this theorem and to create this universe inside. So cosmists believe that a super intelligent life eventually will create the universe in the lab, and right now even scientists are talking seriously about this, how to trigger the universe inside the labs. This is the idea how the consciousness may work. It works with neural correlates. The consciousness is always the stream. There is no like dead consciousness or the consciousness which you can freeze and then unfreeze. It's like electromagnetic fields. It's required movements of the different correlates. Consciousness correlates, you see it for humanity, we have a mind. Different senses, memory that's required for consciousness, language, emotions, will, imaginations. Without this, there is no consciousness, and it's a big question so if we can keep creating artificial consciousness without these ingredients. If we can imagine the consciousness like a cloud, you see some animals very close to this cloud. Dogs may have a consciousness, dolphins. Humans have a consciousness, but not the full consciousness. We believe that plus humans, that they will depart the biological nature of the ground and become the consciousness itself. This is a consciousness singularity, when the consciousness is separate from the hardware. Epistemological singularity. So it's a big question how far we will know the things. Do we have a capacity to know everything? Probably not. So we're going to reach the natural limits of our knowledge, and then the artificial intelligence and the robots will help us to go further down. Can we know everything? Probably not, but the mind, as ancient Greek suggested, is very close to the being. So we have the same capacity as the robots will do and artificial intelligence, but they will go much deeper than we are, because our brain is limited. It's a little picture. Mind uploading. Mind uploading will create different reality. So when the people will live longer and the DNA will be modified, so I'm probably going to live for 200-300 years from now. And it's going to be a big problem if somebody will die by an accident. You're supposed to live for many, many years, and all of a sudden car accident. So the mind uploading is assurance for people to come back for life. But that's will create a separate reality, which will depart from the humanity eventually, I believe. The question how society will change when the robots is here. Advantage to be digital consciousness. So if you believe that's digital consciousness, it's good that's your cosmist. If you don't, you stay alive. On Earth. Merging with another alien civilization. So one of the big questions why we don't see them. There is a Fermi paradox. Why the intelligent life is not here? Why we don't see them? Here's a few ideas why we don't see them. Didn't start yet. They stopped using the radio. It's an alien for us, so we just don't see them because they live in different dimensions, different reality. Zoo hypothesis, because they watching us like animals in the zoo and make us don't see them. It's very easy for people who is managing the zoo. Planetarium is catastrophically dangerous. They're walking among us. I like this, they live in a huge virtual reality and they lost interest in the outside world, so they're not exploring the reality, they have something much better. Transcendent theory when they move outside of the universe. And probably we just didn't meet their conditions. In order for us to fulfill requirements to meet the alien civilization, we think that those is important to meet those conditions. So we should be one global civilization. We should control the environment, have a global government. And this is artificial reality, this is the last one. I believe that the final goals of the humanity is to help for create another universe, sort of sparkle the singularity by creating an artificial singularity. It's not the easy task, we're talking about 1,000 years for the future. But like ultimate idea of the humanity and the super intelligent life, I believe it's going to be possible. So I'm finishing then. Thank you.